Okay, so I'm Dr. Frank with the Church of Rational Truth. Thank you for watching this. If you're watching this, you are hopefully interested in possibly starting a business, or you're just following up as one of our normal weekly viewers from the church. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about starting a business and managing a business for small business owners. I'm going to classify this as educational. Normally we usually do an educational talk or a moralistic talk. I would say we're switching from morals because we've done a lot of videos on morals, so today we'll do something that's a little bit more educational and kind of a little bit of a how-to. I'm not going to get into nitty-gritty detail, so I'm not going to talk about individual licensing for states or municipalities. All I'm going to say is you need to look up local, state, and federal laws that you have to follow by, even if we've got some people who watch internationally. International laws. You have to check all of these municipalities all the way up to make sure you're following all these laws. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty because that gets into way too complicated of a discussion. Every place has its own laws. Everything that's, how you do something in one place is completely different than how you do something in another. So if I start giving you advice, it's really going to be applicable only to a small area of South Carolina. I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to talk about generalities. First off, why should I be giving this discussion myself? What do I know about this? I'm the head of a church, main advisor of a church. Why am I even talking about business? Well, I think it's important, and two, I own several businesses. I have run several businesses. I've had some succeed, some fail. I have a good amount of experience with it. I have been okay in terms of being successful. I'm not going to say that I've made tons and tons of money, but I have at least made enough money where I can live completely off my businesses and pay off all the loans I have from medical school and whatnot. And so I think at least being somewhat successful, I can at least give some people some starter tips or some hints on what will make a successful business and what makes a not successful business. I've also talked with a lot of people my age, older and younger, who have gone into business on their own. Many who have succeeded and many who have not succeeded. So I do see a lot about what works and what doesn't, some pitfalls where people have struggled, and some areas where people have done really well in terms of handling their business aspects. And so hopefully I can give a little bit of insight to people who are either starting out their business or working on their new business to try and get them to be profitable or at least expand and do better. My main advice that I usually give people is business is really two things that it's based on. It is mathematics and common sense. If you don't have either of those two, you need both, you shouldn't have no business in starting a business. It is not going to go well. The common sense part, just because you need to be able to see things how they are, you need to have basic understandings about how things function. If you don't understand how the world functions, or at least have a decent grasp of how interactions happen between people and how businesses function, or how people function with businesses, it's not going to go well. You're just not going to foresee things. You're going to make lots of mistakes. You're not going to understand why simple things aren't working or happening properly. That one's hard. You can't really teach common sense. Some people just have terrible sense for things and don't understand how the world works. They're going to really struggle in trying to do a business because a lot of things will not work and you won't understand why they don't work. That I really can't give a huge amount of advice on. The second part, mathematics. And this is really just for planning a business. Before you've even opened, before you're running, you're not marketing, you're not doing day-to-days, just understanding, can I make a business from this? And the most important thing is mathematics. Now, that is crazy. They don't teach mathematics. Well, they probably do teach some mathematics in business courses, but not many people talk about the simple fact that you need to run the numbers, and business is a lot of running numbers. Basically, all you do is you go, this is what the cost of my product or service is going to be. This is the expense, all the expenses that I could possibly think of running that product or service. If you're having a greater income from selling that product or service than the expenses, you could have a business. And when I tell people to start, run these numbers, it's amazing how many people who have started businesses don't even run basic numbers on it to see, do they even have a viable business? I've seen people start businesses without running the numbers, and then when they do, they realize even if they ran it properly, they wouldn't make money, and then you're doomed to start. So they end up spending a lot of money putting this business together, and then even if it does function, they end up losing money and they end up having to close the business. So what's the point? Why even start if you know from the get-go you're going to be doomed to fail, that it's not just going to work? I usually have people list out all the income sources, what their expected income could be, best case, worst case, middle case, in terms of how many people you can convert to your business. And I always say, go to worst case, make it 3 times as bad, and see how long that's going to last for. Because really, don't be optimistic. People who are optimistic and think they're going to get 1 month and be doing gangbusters in business, they go broke. Expenses, same thing. Double and triple what you think your expenses are going to be. There's always going to be hidden costs. Things are always going to end up being more expensive than you think they are. You're always going to need more things than you budget for. You can say, this is my rent, these are my utilities, this is my cost of labor, this is the cost of renovations. But when you start getting through, there's going to be things that you didn't foresee, and things are going to end up being more expensive. And it's better to just plan those in and say, these are my rough estimates, and these are my wild, the most it could possibly be estimates. And when I've started businesses, most of the time it ends up being closer to the wild numbers than the conservative numbers, just because lots of things pop up that you're not expecting. So that is the bare minimum you should be doing before you even think about starting your business. Do my numbers work out? The one number that I really like to calculate when someone is starting a business is burn time. The burn time is if you take your monthly expenses and you take the total amount of money you have that's going to be put towards this, or the amount of revolving money you have that's starting your startup capital, you divide that by your monthly expenses. That is how long your business can exist before it goes bankrupt, before it goes under. That is the amount of burn time you have, and this is with zero income or whatever your income currently is. You usually can update this as you go, and it's something you should probably calculate out every once in a while to see what your burn time is. Because burn time is what is ultimately going to make a business fail, or at least it's the part where you can't push it any further. If your burn time is run up and you're out of capital, unless you're going to get a new source of capital or some miracle happens, your business is out. Doesn't mean that's going to be the only thing that does it. Sometimes people just come to realize this isn't going to be profitable, or it's not worth the risk anymore, and they cut it sooner. But the burn time is your absolute limit. That is when I've got no more money in this company, I cannot pay payroll, I cannot buy new products, I cannot pay my rent, we're going under. So knowing your burn time is incredibly important. That also gives you the amount of time where you need to get your business functional. One thing that new people don't realize is how long it starts to start a business. Not just the initial getting your credentialing, getting your licensing, getting your business application done, getting your name. That's quick. I can get that done in an afternoon and have technically a new business. But getting a business to the point where you have established return customers, to the point where you're actually making a profit margin, not even a profit margin that can pay you a base salary, most people, when I talk to them, they think it's going to take a month, 2 months. It is possible. I've started businesses within a month or 2 months that have theoretically made a profit, but usually those are bare bones in my garage, no overhead businesses, 0 employees, no rent. Those can get profitable at very low levels very quickly, but that's very different than starting a restaurant, starting a warehouse, starting a service industry where you need to rent office space. Those have overhead. Those have a lot more expenses. They're going to take a lot longer to get to the point of being net positive. And so what you need to do is you need to figure out how much that burn time is going to be, and then get a realistic expectation of how long is it going to take you to get to infinite burn time. And what does that mean? That means you're getting more income than your expenses, so you will never run out of theoretical income, or you'll never run out of your cash. You'll always be gaining money, not losing money. That's not guaranteed, obviously, because businesses fluctuate. Some months bring in more than others. It's not stable. It's not predictable. But once you get to that point where you are being profitable, burn time is less of a concern. Now, whenever you have an economic downturn or whenever you have fluctuations, you have to calculate your theoretical burn time, or you have to start seeing, when do I start getting burn time again? And I have had businesses, especially with COVID, where we've had to shut down an entire store for 2 years. You need to figure that in, because now you got burn time again, even though you might not have had it a year ago. I want people usually to have a good long burn time, or what I usually suggest to people who are starting something, work a job that is a source of additional income that you can use to supplement the business, because that extends your burn time. You now have new income that can come in and help support it, and you might need to support it for a year, 2 years, 3 years if you really believe in it and if it is growing. I usually like a burn time of at least 6 months, if not more. If you have a year, 2 years of burn time, beautiful. You can actually give a good shot at it. If you don't have burn time, the big negative is you need to hit the ground running, and you need to get your income in and revenue up fast and something profitable. If you don't, you're going to hit that burn time before you can actually get to the point of making your money back, and you're going to be in a very difficult position. So more burn time is better. If you start off with a trust fund or you're working as well, you have much longer or possibly infinite burn time, so you get a lot longer to get established. The hardest thing with starting a new business, getting your first customers, getting your repeat customers, getting established where you know you will survive your month-to-month fluctuations. This is before even taking home any money. And people who have done businesses before, they know they're probably not going to be able to pay themselves a profit for months, if not years, out of what's going into the business, because most of the money gets reinvested. You take the money that you made profit, you don't spend it, you put it back into the business. You buy new product, you try to expand, you experiment, you do research and development. It takes a long time before you get enough money actually coming in where you can take that section out, put it in your pocket. Other good advice that I would give new business owners, I would say follow the money and don't make the business, and similar vein, don't make the business you want to make. Make the business everybody else wants. And those are kind of the same advice. I see a lot of people come to me and come with this business plan, and it is a business that they wish existed, not a business everyone wishes existed, and that is a big problem. A lot of people have a passion or a passion project, which could be a viable business, but it's usually the passion project that they care about, not what anyone else does. A lot of times it gets way too specific, it gets too niche, it gets to where not really anyone else wants this, or it's way too specific for what they want and doesn't have a broad appeal. The problem with that is, yes, it helps in terms of doing the work if you care about it, but the hard thing is, if it's not applicable, you won't make money. And so the advice I give is, instead of doing that, follow the money. Follow what people are looking for but can't get. The whole reason why it's called capitalism is because you are capitalizing on some need. Some other people need something that they're willing to pay money for. And because they need that thing and are willing to pay money for it, you can actually provide that service to that other person. If no one is looking for your specific service, you won't be able to get money for it. You won't be able to find that business. So I usually say, try to see what is bringing an income and try to shift into that. If you can go and find those little parts that are actually bringing back money, or you are open to shifting into a different direction, you can actually find a hole in the market, or you can find what people actually want by getting your feet on the ground and then being able to follow those sales leads. I think I'm going to call it quits here, because I don't like these videos to go over 10 minutes, and this is already getting to like a 10 plus minute video. So I'll leave it here. I'm sure I've got plenty more advice if I just want to rattle it off, but that is kind of the bare basics, or the minimum that someone should at least think about before starting their business. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please let me know. I'll be happy to do more. And that'll be it for this week. Once again, this is Dr. Frank with the Church of Rational Truth, signing off.